Commander Samuel Dealey cautiously guides his Gato-class submarine USS Harder through the tropical night along the surface of the Sibutu Passage, the treacherous waters that separate Borneo from the Philippines. It's June 6, 1944, and the area is infamously rife with Japanese destroyers. But Harder isn't deterred. On the contrary, that's why she's here. Along with several transport and cargo ships, she already has one destroyer under her belt, and she's on the hunt for more. Suddenly, a lookout's voice cuts through the salt-laden air to announce the presence of an enemy convoy on the horizon. On Dealey's orders, Harder surges forward, but luck isn't on their side. As the moon bathes the sea in silver light, the submarine's exposed. One of the destroyers, alerted to the danger, wheels around, charging straight for them. Harder plunges beneath the waves, but the enemy ship continues bearing down on her position. Through the periscope, Dealey watches the destroyer grow larger by the second. It's now or never. 3 torpedoes erupt from Harder's tubes, streaking through the water towards their target. Suddenly, 2 massive explosions rock the sea. Dealey watches in awe through the periscope as the destroyer, now identified as Minazuki, breaks in half and slips beneath the waves in mere minutes. There's no time to celebrate. The second destroyer is already moving in, hell-bent on avenging Minazuki. Harder has drawn first blood, but the battle is far from over. Harder and the rest of the Gato class had been created to fulfill a specific requirement the U.S. Navy had developed based on lessons learned from World War I. The Navy needed submarines that would perform scouting missions ahead of the main battle fleet, providing vital reconnaissance and carrying out initial attacks before the main fleet began its gun battle. Therefore, it needed a submarine class with high surface speed, extended range and endurance, and powerful armament. Though designers in the 1920s and 30s struggled to come up with a reliable and effective submarine that adequately balanced all these qualities, in 1940 they finally hit upon an effective design, as development work began on the Tambor and Gar classes, shortly followed by the similar Gato class. At over 311 feet long, the Gatos were sizable submarines, while their exceptional range of 11,000 nautical miles at 10 knots would allow them to remain at sea for extended periods of around 75 days. They could travel at 21 knots on the surface and 9 knots submerged, and could dive to 300 feet. What's more, they carried 24 torpedoes, which could be fired from 10 21-inch tubes, and also came equipped with a 3-inch 50 caliber deck gun, as well as Bofors 40mm and Oerlikon 20mm cannons, making them fearsome opponents for any vessel that dared cross their path. Harder, one of the first submarines of the class, was laid down on December 1, 1941 in Groton, Connecticut. However, just 6 days later, the attack on Pearl Harbor put an end to the idea of the battleship-led gun battle for which Harder and the Gato class had been designed, throwing their future into uncertainty. Fortunately, it was soon decided that their attributes would make them a perfect fit for a new role, sinking Japanese merchant ships. Commissioned on December 2, 1942, under Commander Samuel Dealey, Harder headed down the east coast of the United States, bound for the Panama Canal, from where she would sail on to the Pacific to take on the Japanese. However, her first attack would come from an unexpected source. As she crossed the Caribbean, a U.S. Navy PBY Catalina flying boat mistook Harder for an enemy U-boat and opened machine gun fire on her starboard side. Forced to dive, the submarine was then subjected to 2 bomb attacks from the PBY. Despite being shaken, she escaped unscathed and was able to continue to Hawaii, setting off on her first war patrol from Pearl Harbor on June 7, 1943. 2 weeks after departure, USS Harder approached Honshu, Japan. On June 22nd, she attacked a convoy, damaging the oiler Kyoei Maru No. 3. However, a miscalculation during evasion left Harder grounded with damaged sonar. For 2 hours, she endured a barrage of depth charges before finally breaking free. The following day, Harder engaged the auxiliary vessel Sagara Maru. Despite taking enemy fire, Harder's torpedoes struck true, forcing Sagara Maru to beach. The Japanese vessel was later destroyed. Harder's second patrol in September proved eventful. She sank the cargo ships Koyo Maru and Yoko Maru in quick succession. However, on September 13th, Harder found herself in peril after attacking 2 cargo ships. A Japanese bomber forced her to dive, leading to a grueling 29-hour ordeal of evading depth charges and bombs. With batteries nearly depleted, Harder risked surfacing to recharge, narrowly avoiding detection by nearby enemy aircraft. The submarine's luck held, and she concluded her patrol with 3 more victories. Kachisan Maru on September 19th, followed by Kawa Maru and Daishin Maru on September 23rd. With her torpedo supply exhausted, Harder returned triumphantly to Pearl Harbor on October 8th. 3 weeks later, Harder was back out on patrol, joining fellow Gato-class submarines USS Snook and USS Pargo in an attack group known as a Wolfpack to prowl the Mariana Islands. Having sunk a cargo vessel and finishing off its armed escort 7 days previously, Harder would have another big moment on November 19th, when in a daring pre-dawn attack, she took on a convoy of 3 Japanese merchant ships. Her first victim was the passenger cargo ship Hokomaru, followed by the 3,900-ton Udomaru, which stubbornly stayed afloat until afternoon despite multiple hits. Finally, she chased down the ore carrier Nikomaru. After a missed first attempt, Harder executed a bold end-run maneuver, scoring 2 hits just after midnight. Nikomaru's crew desperately tried to keep her afloat for as long as they could, but eventually she too succumbed to the rough seas. With her successful third patrol complete, USS Harder returned to Pearl Harbor before sailing on to Mare Island Navy Yard in Vallejo, California for a comprehensive refurbishment. During her 2-month stay, Harder's somewhat unreliable Hooven-Owens-Rensler primary engines were switched with General Motors Model 16-278A units. Her armament also received an upgrade, her 3-inch gun replaced with a 4-inch version, and her torpedo compartments modified to accommodate Mark 18 torpedoes. The conning tower was elongated and climate-controlled, with the No. 1 periscope extended, while the crew was likely delighted by the addition of an electric ice cream maker. Resuming her Pacific duties, Harder arrived at Pearl Harbor on February 27, 1944, for final pre-mission adjustments. Notably, both periscope bearings were updated, a new friend or foe detection system was incorporated into her SD radar, and her single 20mm gun was substituted with a twin mount, with the original repositioned behind the bridge. On March 16th, Harder embarked on her 4th war patrol alongside the Balan-class submarine USS Seahorse. Her new mission was to act as a lifeguard vessel for downed pilots in the Western Caroline Islands. Receiving word of a wounded American aviator stranded on the beach of a Japanese-held island, the submarines launched a bold rescue attempt. With the help of a fighter escort, she located the pilot, Lieutenant Junior Grade John R. Galvin, from Fighter Squadron 8. Nosing against a reef around 1,200 yards off the beach, Harder's keel scraped the seabed. She maintained position using both propellers as Lieutenant Samuel Logan, Petty Officer Francis Ryan, and Petty Officer J.W. Thomason plunged into the water, hauling and pushing an inflatable boat tied to the submarine towards the shore. At the same time, an aircraft overhead dropped a life raft for Galvin to board. After about 30 minutes of swimming and waiting, Logan and Ryan finally reached the pilot, who was weary from struggling against the current. However, unexpectedly, an American seaplane touched down, unintentionally cutting the line between the submarine and the raft. Luckily, Petty Officer Freeman Piquet managed to deliver a replacement line to the marooned sailors. Despite enemy snipers, turbulent waters, and the submarine's vulnerable position, the audacious rescue succeeded, and Harder returned to deep waters. Subsequently, Logan, Ryan, Thomason, and Piquet were each awarded the Navy Cross for their valor. Yet Harder's 4th patrol didn't end there. On April 13th, she was spotted north of the Western Carolines by a Japanese aircraft who informed nearby destroyer Ikazuchi. With the enemy vessel bearing down on her at 900 yards, Harder defended herself with 4 torpedoes, 2 of which hit the target, sinking the ship almost immediately. Commander Dealey's famously matter-of-fact report of the event simply said, quote, "expended 4 torpedoes and 1 Jap destroyer." 4 days later, Harder added to her tally yet again, sinking the 7,000-ton Matsue Maru before ending the patrol in Fremantle, Western Australia on May 3rd. Harder had now proved she was capable of sinking not only merchant ships, but also destroyers, once considered submarines' most dangerous adversaries. For her 5th war patrol, beginning on May 26th, she was sent to take on the Japanese fleet in the Celebes Sea. Entering the notoriously dangerous Sibutu Passage on June 6th, she came across a convoy of 3 tankers with 2 destroyer escorts. Unfortunately for Harder, as she advanced along the surface toward her prey, she was given away by the moonlight. With the submarine in her sights, the destroyer Minazuki quickly moved in to attack, but Harder submerged and let rip a volley of 3 torpedoes, 2 of which hit the Japanese vessel, sending it to its doom below the waves. Minutes later, Harder's radar showed the 2nd destroyer was now closing in on her. Rather than trying to escape, the submarine boldly faced her attacker, unleashing 6 torpedoes. However, none met their mark, and Harder was forced to dive and rig for depth charges until the sea conditions allowed her to make her getaway. The next morning, Harder's crew spotted another destroyer, Hayanami, 4,000 yards away. Commander Dealey didn't hesitate and ordered the submarine to close to a daring 650 yards before launching 3 torpedoes, which struck the Japanese vessel amidships. The tremendous explosion that followed suggested that one must have detonated the ship's magazine. Hayanami vanished beneath the waves in just 1 minute. After enduring the inevitable depth charge attack, Harder slipped through the Sibutu Passage and set course for Borneo's northeast coast for a top-secret mission to pick up 6 Australian Special Operations troops. That night, as Harder cautiously inched toward the Borneo shoreline, her hull scraping the sea floor, 2 Australian operatives set out in folding canoes to retrieve their countrymen, returning successfully a few hours later. The following evening, Harder detected a pair of hostile warships guarding the strait's most constricted section, a mere 6 miles from Tawi Tawi. Diving beneath the waves, she stealthily advanced and launched 4 torpedoes at the ships at a distance of 1,000 yards. The second and third struck destroyer Tanakaze with devastating force. She plummeted to the depths almost instantly, her engines detonating in a colossal blast. As expected, Harder then endured a barrage of depth charges before charting a course to survey an area south of Tawi Tawi. On June 11th, Harder scouted the Tawi Tawi anchorage, observing additional enemy battleships and escorts, which provided crucial intelligence to Admiral Raymond Spruance's fleet ahead of the pivotal Battle of the Philippine Sea. Harder then navigated to Darwin, Australia, arriving on June 21st to replenish her torpedo supply for a short stint in the Flores Sea, before returning to Darwin to complete her 5th patrol on July 3rd. The patrol had been a roaring success. Harder's constant attacks on Japanese ships so alarmed Admiral Soemu Toyoda that he thought Tawi Tawi was encircled by submarines, leading Admiral Jisaburo Ozawa's mobile fleet to leave Tawi Tawi a day earlier than planned. This early exit disrupted the Japanese strategic preparations, compelling Ozawa to hold his carrier group in the Philippine Sea, which played a part in the severe loss the Japanese endured of the subsequent battle. Meanwhile, Harder's radio operator, Calvin Bull, received a Bronze Star Medal for his contribution to the sinking of the Japanese destroyers on the submarine's 5th patrol. Harder had now carved out a fearsome reputation for itself, embodied in her famous nickname, Hit 'em Harder. On August 5th, 1944, USS Harder set off on her 6th war patrol, her destination, the South China Sea. This time, her wolf pack consisted of fellow Gato-class submarines USS Hake and USS Hado, soon joining another trio of Gatos, USS Rei, USS Kitaro, and USS Raton. Together, the 6 submarines performed a coordinated assault on a Japanese convoy off Mindoro in the Philippines, sinking 4 merchant ships on August 21st. The submarine spree continued the next day, as Harder and Hado took on 3 coastal defense ships off the coast of Bataan. Harder was responsible for the sinking of 2 Japanese frigates, Matsuwa and Hiburi. Reunited with Hake that night, the 3 Gatos headed toward Luzon, where Hado fatally damaged the enemy destroyer Asakaze. Her torpedoes were now expended, and Hado broke off from the Wolfpack for replenishment, leaving Harder and Hake to go on alone. Scouring the waters near Dassault Bay for potential targets in the pre-dawn hours of August 24th, Harder and Hake spotted what they initially mistook for a Japanese minesweeper and the triple-stack Siamese destroyer Fra Rong. However, these vessels were later identified as the Japanese Type D escort ship CT-22 and the notably rare destroyer PB-102, originally built in the United States as USS Stuart before being damaged and scuttled, only for the Japanese to salvage and repair the vessel, subsequently incorporating her into their own fleet. Harder and Hake moved in for the attack, but a series of maneuvers from the enemy ships caused confusion that almost led the 2 submarines to collide. As the Japanese vessels closed in, Hake dived deep to avoid them. Harder, however, was unable to escape, finding herself subjected to a series of 15 rapid depth charges. By the time Hake returned to the site of the engagement around noon, she found only a circle of marker buoys spanning a half-mile radius. Meanwhile, the Japanese attack report noted oil, wood chips, and cork floating on the surface in the area where the depth charge attack had taken place. The conclusion was obvious. Harder had been sunk, along with her entire crew. The U.S. Navy officially declared Harder as lost on January 2, 1945. She was given 6 battle stars and the Presidential Unit Citation for her first 5 patrols, while Commander Dealey was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. On May 22, 2024, Hit 'em Harder unexpectedly hit the headlines when it was announced that her wreck had been discovered off the coast of Luzon, later confirmed by the U.S. Navy. The submarine rests predominantly intact and upright at a depth of 3,750 feet, with a large hole in her port side just aft of the conning tower, apparently revealing the exact cause of her demise. Though her career ended in tragedy, she will always be remembered as one of the most prolific U.S. submarines of World War II.